Welcome to the Izzi and Nils Show. Today, SEO versus CRO.
Welcome to the Izzi and Nils Show, and today we're talking about search engine optimization versus conversion optimization. If the both are enemies or maybe they help each other, we will find out today. Let's start. My first question that I have for you today, what is your opinion on SEO content, like the text that you usually find at the end of online shop pages or things like that?
Are you referring to the very beautiful keyword-stuffed paragraphs of text on landing
Yes.
pages?
Yes.
I love SEO content. No, I'm just kidding. I hate it. It's definitely dying. It's a thing of the past, and rightly so, because these days everything should be about good quality content. Google doesn't require keyword-heavy blocks of text to determine what a page is about, what the context is, because they're so far in artificial intelligence and things like natural language processing, so they can really easily extract what is going on in the page and then tie that with what a search is looking for.
Okay, so what about these category pages? Like when we're talking about online shops, when we have like the overview, the listing of the products, and many online shops have their texts there. And in my opinion, these are only for search engines because no one wants to read a text on a category page. At least I think so, but maybe there are exceptions for this.
So yeah, you're right. You still definitely see these blocks of SEO text like in the footer on these category pages, and that's because it did work. So there's no reason for SEOs to spend time taking it out of the page. And I think in markets like Germany, maybe it is still important to give those keywords. But personally, I think just the product listings and the meta tags in the page, in the source code, they're enough right now. And if you utilize things like structured data, you don't need these SEO content parts on the page. But I think because it's shifting so much, that this bad quality content, I mean, it always depends how SEO-y it is.
Yeah.
But I think it's really going to become a part of the strategy to assess whether that content is doing more harm than good. Because there are things like site-wide algorithm aspects such as Panda that get caused by irrelevant or spammy content. And there's also this really ugly conversion killing content as well, which makes some CRO teams and UX people upset about SEOs since forever.
Yeah. Also, I think it depends a bit on the age of your audience. So, for example, when you have an older target audience or older people on your page, for them, it might be important to have some guidance, to have some help there on these pages that guide you to different products. I guess for some, it can make sense to have this content there. But
Definitely,
of
yeah.
course, it should help. It should not be just keyword stuffed bullshit copy.
Exactly. So putting keyword stuffed copy for the sake of it, that's not the way it should be. Content should be there for a purpose.
Just eating a piece of pomelo.
That should stay in the podcast.
Yeah, but no one will know what a pomelo is.
No, you can put a link to it in the description.
Yeah.
Keywords in the content for the sake of rankings is really something that us SEOs need to get rid of. Just having that copy on the page for the sake of it. But you should assess good content by user metrics such as time on the page, dwell time, bounce rate, and conversions. And I think that's a really good way that CRO experts can help SEOs deliver better content that humans and search engines need. So what do you think? Does conversion optimization have an impact on SEO?
Well, I guess it depends on what exactly you do. So if it's only for tweaking a few things on your product detail pages or things like that, then I guess it's irrelevant for SEO. But of course, when you do things like please remove these links or remove specific elements or put them more to the top of your page instead of to the bottom, then I guess it does have an impact. And of course, also all of this user signal optimization. So I'm not really sure if you can say that user signals are a ranking factor, but I guess so.
So there are many different opinions on this. Some SEOs believe that it's a very good way of Google determining if a page deserves to rank highly if they're already ranking number one through three, for example, if there are a lot of clicks to the page, but then jumps back, or a small time on site, a low time on site, it can be taken as a sign of bad quality, and then Google knows to drop them lower down the SERPs. It's more a way of training the Google machine learning algorithms rather than ranking the pages in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, and also I think things like social signals, like people sharing your site or people posting links to your site, is also something you can optimize through your website itself. So, for example, you can do A/B tests that encourage sharing of your pages, things like that. So, I would say conversion optimization can have an impact on SEO rankings, but it depends on what you do. And I guess not everything will have an impact. Of course, the execution of everything. So if you do A/B testing, or if you do multivariate testing or split URL testing, this might have an impact if you're doing it wrong. So it can have a very negative impact when you're, for example, doing tests that the Googlebot cannot see. So this would be interpreted as cloaking or as some form of cloaking. When you exclude the Googlebot from your tests, you should never do that, because then this will most probably have a negative impact because they think you're deceiving them. So there's also an official statement on this on the Google Webmasters Central blog. I can post the link in the show notes.
Cool. And does Google want people to do A/B testing? Are they okay with that?
This is also something that's in that post, I think. So they say they prefer, or they encourage people to do A/B testing. After all, they have their own A/B testing tool. So they have Google Optimize, and they're testing things themselves all the time. And of course, testing isn't only to trick people into buying your stuff, but it's also to help people make the right buying decision, make the right decision when looking for information and so on. So I would say A/B testing or conversion optimization is a very good topic that no one should dislike, and especially not Google
True.
or other search engines.
I remember when I was quite new to SEO, I had a similar idea to cloaking, and I thought it was the most innovative, like best idea ever. Like, why don't we show users like really awesome content and we just give Google the super keyword stuffed content? And my colleague was like, no, Izzi, no. I thought I was so smart.
Almost.
Yes. So are there any other additional things to bear in mind for A/B testing or split URL testing to keep it safe for the search engines?
Maybe for the listeners of this podcast that don't know what the differences are. So A/B testing or ABN testing in general is when you just change things on your website and the testing tool just changes the front end through JavaScript or similar technology so that people stay on the same URL, while split testing or split URL testing is where the testing tool separates the users to different URLs to track which URL leads to more conversions. So that's the difference. And so, of course, if you do split URL testing, you will have different versions of your website on different URLs that are potentially to be indexed by Google. So if the Googlebot, we're always talking about Google, of course, we mean other search engines too, but as Google is the biggest one here, we'll stick to that. So the Googlebot can see both versions, and it's possible that both will be interpreted as duplicate content, or that it will be not duplicate content, but you rank with two different pages for the same term or for the same topic in Google. So that's something you don't want usually. And so if you do split URL testing, you should always use canonical text so that you can tell the spider or the robot from the search engine what the main URL is for this topic. And also, if you do some other redirection stuff, then you should never use 301 links, but always 302 links. So it's just temporarily moved and not permanently moved. I guess that plus the cloaking thing we just talked about, I guess that's the most important things. And of course, if you do A/B testing, you shouldn't use your tests as the main version of your website. Something that companies often do is because they don't have the resources or the time to implement the winning version of a test to the main version of a website, then it's common practice to just clone the test and set the winning version to 100% of the traffic. So every user just gets into variation B or whatever variation it is. And that is something you should never do, because this will most likely be deceived, some attempt to deceive the search engine. And also Google says that you shouldn't let your tests run longer than they need to run. So always implement the stuff. And also I think if you have a positive result from an A/B test, it's easy to convince people that we should implement this now because we do earn more money or we get better user signals or whatever from it.
But do you know how the Googlebot recognizes that it's the B variation of a test?
I think the Googlebot just visits the page and sees one or the other, and it thinks it's just the website. I guess it doesn't know that there's a test running. Even if you're using Google Optimize, which is the A/B testing add-on from Google Analytics, then it should not be able to understand which is an A/B test or which is not an A/B test, because I think that would just take too much resources. And from other testing tools, it can also never interpret or understand what is an A/B test and what is not an A/B test, what is maybe personalization or things like that. So I guess it just sees one version and it thinks that's the current website. That's it.
Okay.
Or that's the current version of the page.
Nice.
But that's just theoretically. Maybe they're doing it differently, but I don't think so. So have you ever seen an impact on SEO through CRO?
Unfortunately, it's quite hard to measure these impacts, kind of like SEO in general, because these impacts on performance could be from different factors such as seasonality or branding, if there's TV campaigns going on, or maybe like my competitors are doing something fucked up. So it's kind of hard to measure whether there is an impact on my rankings because of CRO uplifts. But I think over the long run, CRO has helped me, I think, with becoming a better SEO. It sounds quite cheesy because it's good.
That's all right.
We like to be cheesy.
Yes.
It gets me more thinking about the user and not just about machines and search engines. And that's really the direction in which SEO is heading. And I think something I really want to dig deeper in next year is this topic of, do user experience uplifts impact organic rankings and performance? And it's not just about like changing maybe a call to action to generate another user engagement, and maybe that's going to increase my rankings. It's really about like reimagining the whole SEO strategy from a completely new point of view.
What would be your research to find the answers to this topic?
I think right now it'd be a lot of understanding how the users behave already on our website and identifying key problems, like where are they jumping back to the SERP, like where is the bounce rate super high, where is the dwell time annoyingly low.
So the time on site.
Exactly. And implementing a lot more ways of tracking user behavior. So things like these micro conversions, and it could be a page scroll or a click through to the booking funnel, or maybe a video view, things like that, and just gathering all this new data and seeing what people are actually doing on the website.
I've read something from Online Marketing Rockstars from Bastian Grimm, Pip, and Markus Tandler, I think.
Wow, what a dream team.
I know. They said, I haven't really read the article, I've just seen this quote. So they said that the longer someone stays on your site, the better it is for your search engine rankings. And I think that is bullshit. At least it must be some kind of bullshit, because that would mean the better or the faster you deliver the answer that the user is looking for, the worse it is. And this doesn't make sense in my eyes. But I haven't read the article, so maybe I interpreted this wrong. I don't know.
I would have to take a look. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of bullshit because it really depends on what the user needs and is looking for. Of course, if it's a really long article and the user is reading every word, then a higher time on site is what you're looking for. But if they're just trying to find quick information and this time on site is 20 minutes, then obviously they're not finding what they need. So it's also like there is no perfect time on site. There is no perfect page depth and so on. It really depends on what they're looking for. So that's kind of exciting, of finding your perfect baseline and seeing how to improve that.
Yeah. We will also put this link to the show notes, I guess, to the article, so other people
Yeah.
can read this as well. But it's German, but you can use Google Translate if you don't speak German.
Yes. And also, there is how can Google define what pages to rank if, based on these metrics, if there is no user behavior on a page because it's ranking so low already. So there are problems like this.
Yeah, but isn't there this technique where they rank some pages higher for a short amount of time just to see how users interact with the site, and then they let it stay there or they put it to a lower position?
That's mainly for like really less competitive keywords, and they're not. Well, we're not entirely sure if that's what they're doing with these ranking spikes. But I kind of believe it's because they haven't fully interpreted the page at the moment and what is going on there and where it deserves to be. But that could be, yeah.
You mean in what topic, in what keyword
Yeah,
area?
like where it is relevant to be.
Yeah, okay.
So generally, if you want to improve user signals on a landing page or maybe a specifically a SEO landing page through CRO, how would I go about doing that?
Well, I guess there are different things you can do. So, first of all, of course, you need to find out where is the problem. So, what should you improve? If it's the bounce rate, for example, and when I talk about bounce rate, I always mean like people bouncing or leaving the page after visiting it after maximum 10 seconds or
Mm-hmm.
15 seconds. So they didn't see relevance. They just left the page again because they didn't find at all what they were looking for. So this would be something where you could just focus on the top part or even the above the fold part of the page. So the part you see before users scroll. And there, usually, if it's a high bounce rate, you can try to change your headline, you can try to change your hero shot, so your main image of your page, and your value proposition. So the things that people see very early that makes them understand what you offer and how it is good for them. And if it's other things, so for example, you want to have more people click through to another page on your website, but you just see them scrolling down and see them scrolling up again, but they don't interact with the page, then of course you could think about calls to action. So if you have something that you want the people to do, if it's sharing your page or if it's clicking a link or if it's using something like some widget or anything that is on your page, you should always give them a reason to do it. So first of all, they would need something like a call to action in form of a headline or of a sub headline that you have right next or right above this interaction element. And then you should always give them reasons to follow this call to action. So what I like to do there is, if you have this specific setup, then the headline or this call to action headline for an element that people should interact with works very great if you use something like, what should the user do now and why should he do it? And below that, you should give them benefits of following this call to action. So this usually increases the chance of people clicking a button, of people filling out a form or signing up for a newsletter or even scrolling down extremely compared to if you don't do that. And other than that, of course, you shouldn't have irrelevant elements on your page. You would see this in mouse tracking. So if people are just blindly scrolling through your site, moving the mouse cursor in directions where it doesn't make sense, because usually most, or not most, but many people use their mouse cursor for reading. So they have the mouse cursor in an area on your page where they're looking right now, so you can see where's the attention. And if you see this is just random and it doesn't make sense, then you should think about reducing the content or making the most important elements more prominent, like put it higher in your visual hierarchy on your website. So yeah, these are usually the low-hanging fruits, if you want to call it like this, for optimizing user signals. But other than that, of course, it's always about what exactly happens on your page. And most of the time, you will need to ask people what they are missing, or or what they don't want to miss
Yeah.
on this page. And then you find ideas to improve.
I think that's a really good way to also discover content that you're not yet targeting. So using qualitative feedback, I can never say that, um, like via Hotjar surveys, especially on like my FAQs and services pages. I'm usually asking like, did you find what you're looking for? If not, blah, blah, blah. And then they're
Yeah.
asking questions, and then we know that there is some potential content that we can go out and create and target those keywords additionally.
Yeah. I mean, also, if you are asking questions, it depends strongly on how you ask or what
Yeah.
you ask. So, for example, if you want to find out what are the best benefits of our product, you shouldn't just ask, what is your favorite benefit? Because
Mm-hmm.
people will think differently than if you ask something like, if we took away our product today, what would you miss the most? Things like that. So, people would usually dig deeper if you ask the questions a bit differently compared to if you just ask on the surface and people don't think enough about it.
Yeah.
To sum this up, would you say it's SEO versus CRO, or would you say that both disciplines are rather helping each other than harming each other?
I think definitely now they should be best friends, almost best friends, because there is so much that the SEOs can learn about the user through CRO best practices, and we need this information to create better websites, not just for search engines like we have done in the past, but for humans. And that's really, like I said before, how SEO is going. That is how the Google algorithms are performing, and that's the future. They're trying to mimic the user and how they behave, and they're going to serve the right URLs and right websites depending on that. So we really have to work closely together. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I totally agree. But what would you do if you change something on your website? So you do some type of conversion optimization or user experience optimization, and you see 100% sure that this harms your ranking for specific keywords. What would you do then? Would you say we will remove the change to get less conversions or less bookings or sales or whatever, just to keep a ranking? Or would you say, fuck the ranking, let's get more sales? So, what would you do there? Or how would you approach this decision?
So I think in SEO, we always have to think about the bigger picture. And that is making more conversions. What is the point of getting rankings? It's to get traffic, but what is the point of getting those users to the website if it's not converting and not making money? So I think I would definitely take more conversions over a good ranking.
I see it a bit differently. In general, I agree, but I think you should look at the numbers. So if you can say we're losing maybe 10% of the traffic, but we're getting 15% more
Yeah,
sales total, then of course take this. But if the numbers are worse, so you get less money out of it in the end, then of course I would stick to keeping the SEO part and ditching the CRO part of this. But I guess it always
it always
depends. So you
depends.
always
Yeah.
need to look at the numbers.
Like if there was really a significant drop in users coming to my website, and of course that's going to eventually decrease the amount of conversion, so I would roll back this change that was made, of course. So Niels, everyone knows you as a conversion rate optimization guru or expert, of course.
I wouldn't say that about myself.
Of course not. But having all this knowledge, having run all these A/B tests, are you cursed by this expertise? Is it impossible for you to browse a website normally in your private life, or do you just get upset by poor practices?
Um, I don't really get upset by it. Of course, I see websites where I'm thinking you should change this, you should change
Mm-hmm.
that. And this almost happens on every website visit that I do, at least for websites where I want to buy something or want to book a flight or something like that. And it's even worse in real life. So whenever, like real life in on the streets when I'm walking around. So if you see billboard ads or if you see posters and advertisements on trains and everywhere, I always think this is the worst advertising you can do because none of them, or almost none of them, have a goal. It's just you see something and they tell you something, but they don't tell you what to do with it now, like where to go, where to sign up, where to buy it, whatever. So it's more branding, but it
Mm-hmm.
obviously isn't branding advertisement. It's something where they want to sell something, but they don't tell you how to do it. So this is worse. I think in real life it sometimes really annoys me, or I find it funny maybe. And I also thought about doing a live stream on that on Instagram or somewhere, where I just show the ridiculously bad offline ads that I see, because I have some photos of them. Especially when it comes to stock photography, they are quite funny sometimes. And yeah, this is worse. But also online, what annoys me there, and what really annoys me, or what really grinds my gears, how Peter would say it, is when websites use dark patterns. So you have these dark patterns of user experience or of conversion optimization, where you trick people into buying things they don't want. I book a lot of flights usually, so a few websites where you can book flights, not at the airline itself, but through some agency or something like that. They sometimes trick you into buying insurances that you don't want,
Yeah.
or things like that. And that is really fucking annoying. And it happened to me. And usually I should be able to see where people are trying to trick you, and where they color a button as a primary button that says, yes, continue with insurance, and the button that looks like go back please is the button for continuing without the insurance, and things like that. So that's really something bad. And there's even a website for this, or a Twitter channel that's featuring these dark patterns. And it's really funny to see if you just scroll through there and you see what websites or companies try to do to fuck up their customers. That's really sad. And we will also put that in the show notes, because it's really entertaining to see these dark patterns.
Nice.
So this is it for this episode. In the next episode, we will be talking about if it's worth speaking at conferences, and what challenges we experience as speakers for conferences. And we hope to see you there. And also, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel or follow our channel, depending on the platform you're on. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, you will find our Twitter handles in the show notes below. If you have questions about this episode, or want to add something, or get in touch with us, please use the hashtag Nils Show, and we will reply.
Goodbye, everyone. That was so bad.